Welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation happens. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride from author to author. We want to give you an experience where you learn and enjoy the conversation. Authors tell you about their journey, you learn about new books, and at the end of the day, you go home with a smile on your face because the Author's Porch is a beacon of light, bringing you home to the family you never knew you had. We hope that you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Author's Porch, where every great conversation happens, and it happens because we trusted Brendan and Bobsy at Master Talk to show us the power of effective communication. We also make sure we have a great cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, a Christ-centered, veteran-owned coffee company. Today on the show, we have Ariel Dawn. How are you doing, Ariel?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I enjoyed our conversation before the show. I was like, oh, wait, we gotta stop before we talk about everything, and we have nothing to talk about once we go live. So you guys are going to have a great time. Trust me, because me and Ariel were already talking about so many fantastic things. But before we go straight into going back to, just talking about all wonderful things, books, book life, that wonderful stuff, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of introduction to her, and then we're going to have a great time again.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we got to stop and do all the, the formal professional stuff, and then we can go back to having a good time. So Ariel Dawn started out as writing reviews for indie authors on her Instagram, Wrong Turn Romance. Because of that love and that endeavor, it gave her the courage to finally decide to live her dream and become an author. That's super fantastic. And I look at that as wow, because reading all of those books and there's a lot more to your bio, right? There's obviously a whole lot more, but I don't give everybody everything. So we're going to talk about it. And they should have been reading all of that and been ready for the show. And if they weren't, then they are just missing out, and they're going to learn about it now. So, but yes. I always pick out a small little bit so that we can talk about that first and then go in organically into the rest of it. But I love that you were sitting there and reading all those indie authors, and you were giving their reviews, and you were learning before you jumped into the world. And you said it gave you the courage to do the thing that you always dreamed to do. So let's talk about that.
So it's actually kind of funny because when I started writing romance, well, it wasn't strictly romance at the time. It was just reviews. And it kind of delved a little bit more into romance. But when I started writing the reviews for indie authors for onlinebookclub.com, I wasn't really into the romance genre. I'd always read books. And I always liked books that had romance in them, but I wasn't more familiar with like the romance-centered genre. And at the time, I don't want to say that I was like against it, but I was very much like the highbrow like reader that would just be like, it's romance, it's stereotypical, it's this, it's that. And I thought I was the perfect person to write these reviews because I didn't normally read in this genre. So that's kind of how I more so got into it. And as I was reading certain things, in a sense, at the time, I didn't understand what tropes were. So I was reading a lot of these different books and these things, and I was like, well, this is XYZ. I could write this. Like, I could do this. And then I started like learning what tropes were and learning like more about all that stuff. And finally, after the pandemic hit and we were all, on lockdown, I was finally like, I'm going to write a book. I had written one short story before that, and it was more of a launching point where I just wanted to have something published, and I wanted to be able to start something and finish it because I have ADHD. So starting and finishing stuff sometimes is like, well,
very hard.
So I thought at that time, if all I ever write was a short story, then I'm good. But from writing those reviews, jumping to having all the time available to me to finally write a book, that's essentially how I got into it. And I didn't even realize I was using tropes because I had just become so used to like reading them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense because I didn't know what they were either. And then somebody explained them to me and I was like, oh, well, I do know what they are. I just didn't know what that word was.
Mhm.
And then I started reading this book, The Trope Thesaurus. I saw it. It was a sponsored ad on
I've
Facebook.
heard of that. I've never read
Yeah,
it,
it
but
was a sponsored ad, and I was like, "Oh, there's a thesaurus for this, so I wanna read that, I wanna check that out." So I started reading it, and you really go down a rabbit hole with all that stuff. You truly do. But
Mhm.
it helps you kinda understand certain things and how you can branch off from all of those. And one of the interesting things that you told me before we came live, which I was like, "I don't know how the hell you do that." But you were talking about writing 2 books a month, and
Mhm.
you're talking about like 30 to 60 is your range of words. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, I could write 10 to 20, 30 days, like one 10 to 20 in 30 days. Well, I used to, I don't anymore. But I mean, where does that inspiration come from? And what is that like when you're writing like crazy like that?
I have to say sometimes I do believe my ADHD is like a blessing and a curse, right?
Mm,
Because it provides me such hyper fixation on things,
mm,
and I'm a natural multitasker. But at the same time, I tend to, just be like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna do this." Impulsive, right? And then I have
yeah.
30 books to write. Uh, so, for me, what I think sometimes helps is that when I'm writing in multiple books, I'm not writing the same thing. So it's almost like when I don't wanna say get tired, but when I get a little spent on one, I
Yeah.
go jump in the other, and then I'll jump back. And it's like rereading, everything is fresh again. So it kinda,
Mm,
like, stimulates that inspiration a little bit more. Like, right now, I'm working on my first contemporary romance, but I'm
mm.
also writing paranormal stuff. So, it's jumping from thing to thing kinda helps keeps my mind going and keeps the inspiration going for different projects, I
And
think.
what's your favorite type of romance? What's your favorite one to write?
Paranormal. Paranormal is my
Mm.
wheelhouse. I grew up
Mm.
reading paranormal romance before I realized it was paranormal romance. Um,
Oh.
so I like Anita Blake novels, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like
Oh god,
that
Buffy the
stuff.
Vampire Slayer. Oh, yeah.
My book In the Blood is heavily influenced by all my vampire loves because vampires are where my heart's at. So,
Right,
uh,
I'm a 15-year-old girl on a vampire novel, vampire movie, vampire
mhm,
anything, I turn into a 15-year-old girl.
mhm, yeah. So, I think too that that's kinda like where that's what I love to write, but I also have, because ADHD and different craziness over here, um, I like to say that I'm like a little bit of a split personality. I love young adult novels too,
Yeah.
and, all that type of stuff. So, I actually have 2 pen names. So I write my adult stuff under Ariel Dawn, and then I am launching my second pen name this year for young adult paranormal and fantasy and adult cozy mystery and rom-com, which that's all clean romance, and Ariel
Yeah.
Dawn is all the steamy romance. So,
Very cool. Well, I
mhm,
mean, it's great to be able to write in different genres because it allows you to understand the reader's minds
mm,
and kind of where you can go and push a little bit of limits as well. Because for your paranormal romance, you can actually fit those in young adult and the steamy.
mhm,
So you can just kind of move those characters around. You can have like a younger version and you
mhm.
can kind of branch Ariel Dawn into those young adult. That's the coolest thing about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you thought about writing, some characters that pull into Ariel's characters, and maybe a mother and a daughter could read together, but it's like
I haven't, but I like that idea.
yeah. I
That could be a
actually there's a author, Beth Wordswell, she has a book like that where, it's young adult and there's an adult version.
Mhm.
But they're 2 different storylines, but you
But they
could
coincide. That's cool.
yeah,
I like
yeah, so I find it fascinating, I asked my daughter, she's 19, and I was like, "Would you read it with me?" And she's like, "No, mom, I'm not young enough to do stuff like that anymore." I was like,
that.
You're so boring. So,
Aww.
so I totally get how there's just so many things that you can go into. Now, when you were reading all those books, you said you did you write a short story before you became a reviewer or after you became a reviewer?
After.
Okay. So before you became a reviewer, had you thought about writing?
I'd always wanted to write a book. Like it's been one of my bucket list goals for like as long as I can remember.
Mhm.
But before I started writing reviews, I didn't think I had the discipline or the follow through to be able to write a book because of my ADHD, because I am like the poster child for starting a project and then the dopamine wears off and we go to the next project.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
didn't
with you.
think that I could finish a project like that.
Mhm.
So it was always like, yeah, I'll write a book one day, like, you know, saying it like it was this dream that was never going to happen. And then eventually, like, it did, and here I am, and I still don't know how this is my life. I have no idea.
Are you
I know,
self
like, whoosh.
Yeah, are you self-published or are you traditionally published?
I am a hybrid author.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have some self-published stuff, but I also have like my Forevermore series and my Vampire series, my Ava Crowley Vampire Slayer series are published through Naughty Nights Press.
Mhm.
So I get a little bit of both
Of
worlds.
both. Now, did you start what did you do first? Self or did you get picked up by a press?
I started self. I started
Okay.
with my short story, which was actually for a charity anthology.
Okay.
And it was a limited time run type thing.
Mhm.
And then when I wrote my first book in the cards, I wrote it for an anthology. And it just so happened that my publisher was running that anthology. And she kind of took me under her wing before I really had anything. Like all I had was this 18,000 word short story. I didn't have an Amazon page, a newsletter, like nothing.
Mhm.
And she kind of just like helped, you know, set me up and kind of point
That's
me
cool.
where I needed to go and everything. And after she read my first book, because she had to read it, it was going in the anthology, she gave a glowing review about it and just basically like, you know, was, hey, I see potential in you type thing. And I wrote my second book and I gave her a copy because she liked the first book. So I was like,
Yeah, why not?
and after that, it was, you know, her offering me a spot at her house and, you know, let's talk about this. And here we are. So.
That's super cool. That's awesome because I mean it's everyone's dream to be picked up by a press, right? Because it just makes it feel validating that your work's good enough, right?
Right.
You know, and not to mention, I mean, being an author is a hard job. People think it's super easy. It's not easy.
No, it's juggling a lot of hats. Like it's exhausting, and it's people think, I think sometimes like, oh, you just write a story, like you just sit down and write, and it's like, no, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. You want to say, okay, let's see yours. Let's write it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's sit down and write it.
And I have to kind of laugh because at one point I was like that, you know, before I started doing it. And I'm like, then I started doing it and I'm like, whoa, there's so much more that goes into this. I still have Wrong Turn Romance and I still do, you know, periodically I will do the same type of reviews that I did before. Because initially when I started Wrong Turn Romance, it was when I was reviewing those books, I hadn't written anything yet. And I was still kind of like in that mindset of like, you know, like, the doctor's, you know, the doctor knocked me up thing, like, okay, but there's an audience for that, you know? And
Yes.
so when I did Wrong Turn Romance, I kept that in mind. Like, it wasn't so much riffing as it was like, okay, here we're going to be a little bit tongue in cheek. We're going to say something. But at the end of the day, I gave you the link and, you know, like said, you know, what the reviews were, you know, and so people would still go read it and go check it out or whatever. And I would do periodically. I did Hallmark movies. I would, you know, review
Oh my
those.
gosh, I love Hallmark movies.
same thing, because I was always like, oh my God, Hallmark movies. You know?
Some people really despise that type of romance, like that contemporary clean, and that's my gig. Like I'm a fluttery heart. That's what I write. Like I love that type of stuff. But I get why some people hate it, because they're like, oh my God, give me more. You know what I mean? Like I totally get it.
Right. And so I started watching some of them to specifically, like I did with the books initially, to review them, you know, and kind of and then, you know, now I watch Hallmark movies too. So, I mean, it's just.
They get you.
It does. I have a couple of them, and Netflix does them too. Obviously, they're not Hallmark, but they're Hallmark style, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what gave me the idea to launch into writing, you know, my clean romance stuff too. So.
Yeah, you never know. It could be a Netflix special.
It
could be turned into a Netflix special.
I can only hope. Well, Jayme and Eve had her Spellbound Academy or whatever, her Paranormal Academy, that got turned into a show on Peacock. So
isn't that cool?
Like, it can happen.
Yes. It definitely can happen, and it's happening more now, because what I find fascinating is not only is the traditional book world being turned upside down by indie authors, but the traditional Hollywood world is being turned upside down as well. And they're looking to the book world to bring them new and invigorating ideas as well. And they're going, oh, well, we can, you know, the screenwriters are going, oh, you've got this fantastic book, well, I can rewrite it as a screenplay. Let's work together. And I'm like, okay. And a lot of people think that authors have to write the screenplay. Not always. Sometimes if you've got a great freaking book, the screenwriter will come to you. So I mean, if you want to, go for it, but I tried and burn. Not happening.
I hope one day. I feel like I need a little bit more exposure. I need a little bit more reviews first, but I feel like my Forevermore series and my Ava Crowley series, they would be prime and perfect for like.
Well, let's talk about your Forevermore series. Give us some more insight. If you're thinking it's prime, I want to hear about it. Now I want to see it on TV.
I love it. So my Forevermore series is actually, it's built up of interconnected standalones, and it's a genre blended series. So each book is kind of like a different genre, and it follows different characters from the series. So essentially, you can read them as standalone novels, or you can read them as part of the entire series. And it really focuses on love and immortality through the ages. So the first book, being In the Cards, is actually free, so you can check it out.
I'll be over there.
Amazon and other vendors as well, Barnes and Noble, Nook, Kobo. So it's on all those. It's free. And it follows Ember, who is a psychic, and she has these visions, these recurring visions of like, call him like the man in her dreams. And he shows up one day while she's doing a reading, and she gets some like memories. She gets some stuff going on. It was kind of like my version of Ghost, like the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze, which I love.
Right.
So, and some of those characters that pop up in that very first book, like her best friend Ava got her own spin-off series. That's the Ava Crowley Vampire Slayer series, and what the second book, In the Blood, is about. And then you have these characters from a past time, past life type thing that come up and pop up. And it's a very dramatic series. So, but we hop around from time. So we have some modern day stuff. We go back to the 20s. We go back to the 1800s. So it's a very interesting series that really does focus on that whole, like, love is forever. But so are curses.
So are what?
So are curses.
That's true.
So, you know, and this whole idea of like, I really like to play with the idea of like, who is the villain or who is the monster? And it's not always who you think, you know, or this morally gray type characters. Like, I can't give too much away because obviously I want you to go read it. But the Ava Crowley Vampire series, which is a spinoff, focuses more on like her and the vampire, because I know that's obviously a hot spot for a lot of people, including myself. So
yeah. So have you seen the TV show The Originals?
I have not.
Oh,
I
you
need
seen
to. It is
Vampire
on my
Diaries?
list. No,
Oh,
I have not. Which is really
okay.
funny, but it's really funny because people have likened my Ava Crowley books In the Blood and Blood and Bones, like they've likened them to the Vampire Diaries, which is funny because I've never seen them. Eventually I'll watch them. They're on my watch list. Once
Yeah,
I've written 30 books.
because both of those, so the originals was like a spinoff of Vampire Diaries because it
Mhm.
was a character that came from him. But there is the very much the villain and the monster and the good guy villain. You don't always know who the villain is, and there is a characters in both of those series that you actually fall deeply in love with the villain.
Mm.
Like
I love it.
literally, you love to hate them and you hate to love them.
Mm.
That's what you are struggling with through the entire series. The entire series. But you also love the really good guy. Even when they turn bad, you still, I mean, it's just like you're in total
I'm totally gonna have to
conflict.
this.
You're in total conflict the entire time. I still have what's it called? I still have watchathons or whatever it's called
Oh yeah, like
for
marathon
Vampire Diaries.
or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
I have, yeah. And I told you I turned into a 15-year-old girl. Those sound, yeah. So I've written those down because if you can give me another originals or Vampire Diary feel, I'll read it forever. Like it will be my new favorite thing.
Well, you have to check them out and let me know if that hits the feels on that because I have definitely heard the Vampire Diaries, and In the Blood itself and its spin-off series are heavily inspired by a lot of the vampire things that I love, like Buffy, but
Mhm.
also by Supernatural. Supernatural is like a huge pot of inspiration for me for like a lot of my books because I am a huge Supernatural fan.
Yeah.
So and even to the point where in my vampire novels with especially the Forevermore spinoff, the vampire, his name is Cassius, but he goes by Cass, which comes from Cass from
Mm,
Supernatural.
yeah.
He gets some of his demeanor from him, as well as Ava's last name is Crowley because Crowley is from Supernatural,
Oh yeah.
and also the fact that she's technically a descendant of Aleister Crowley, like the famous.
Okay.
So there's tons of supernatural references like throughout the book that like if you're like one of those readers, it's like those little Easter eggs, that type of thing.
That's interesting. I've watched half of the Supernatural series, not all of it, and it's only because my son was young at the time and something freaked him out about it, so I had to stop
Mhm,
watching it because he came
mhm,
in and he saw it and I was like, I can't chance this anymore. So,
mhm.
but I should
Yeah,
get back to it because I miss,
I
I haven't
love
watched a good,
Supernatural.
yeah. Yeah, you fall in
Supernatural.
love with all the characters. Very interesting books. So, my question, oh, I have so many. I have so many. Interesting. Now, you also you work do you still work full time as well?
So I have a part-time job.
Okay.
I work Monday through Friday. I work 3:30 in the evening to like 7, sometimes 10 p.m. So it's a nice like slot of my time during the day that I get to do other things. Like I do my administrative work and then I'll go to work. I clean. I clean in a school.
Yeah.
So and then I come home at night and I write. So that's
And
basically I
so you
build.
have a family life, a work life, and your writing life, and you still have to promote. Like, where do you find the time to write well, really, it's 120 words a month.
At night when my husband goes to sleep. My husband goes to bed. A lot of times, because and I just recently learned this, people with ADHD have delayed circadian rhythms, so we don't tend to fall asleep at like a normal time. And I've been trying to like regulate my sleep for a little while. I learned that I'm most productive when I write between the hours of like 10 p.m. to like 1 a.m. So that's where I write. I try to like,
Mm,
between 10 and sometimes midnight, like I'll get most of my words out. And I sprint, which really helps me.
yeah.
Um I have a group of author friends on Discord. It's the How to Indie with Indies group. They do have a Facebook group, but they also have a Discord channel. And a lot of times I'll go in there and I'll run the sprint bot, and some people will come on and will, sprint with me. But a lot of times, even if it's just myself, I'll go on and run it so that, that little time, that alert, okay, you're going to sit down and you're going to write for 20 minutes and then you're going to take a 5-minute break. And that helps me, I think, get more words out than like if I just sat down in front of the computer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm my most productive. So I don't have ADHD. I have ADD, which I'm like, man, why couldn't I have had the HD with it? Because then I could be more productive. I just have attention. I just have squirrel moments. And then I'm like, huh?
Oh, I do too. There's times I sit here and I'm like, get off of TikTok and do what you're
yeah, but I don't have the energy with it. I'm like, can I get the energy too? Because if I had the energy, I could get more done. Yeah. But my most productive, I wake up at 5, and from like 5 to 10, and the morning time, I'm great. After 10, I'm useless. I'm not getting anything done. After 10 in the morning, you won't find me getting anything productive when it comes to writing done. My brain just doesn't work that way. I could talk, I can get, administrative stuff done, but actual writing, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I have to write at night for some reason. Like I've tried writing during the day, but I don't write as much.
Almost every author I talk to, it's nighttime for them.
Must be a thing.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of authors, it's a nighttime thing for them. And I'm like, why am I a weirdo? But that's okay. So what upcoming projects do you have?
So I have quite a bit. I have a very large schedule this year. I have like about 30 books that are coming out. Not all of them are individual books. Some of them are in, books and anthologies and things like that.
Yeah.
Weird Worlds, that type of thing. So I have a couple things coming up in I want to say immediately. So in May, I have Blood and Bones, which is the first book in the Ava Crowley Vampire Slayer series, is part of Midnight Magic, which is a anthology that is a collection of paranormal romance and urban fantasy authors, and it is amazing. Like there are so many cool stories and so many great authors in this set. Like I am so excited. So I have that coming out. Also in May, I have my first official title is coming out for my my second pen name, which is A.D. Luna, A.D. Luna. And the first title for that is Spellbound, and it is going in a anthology called Magic and Malice, and it is a collection of young adult paranormal and urban fantasy tales. And Spellbound is a little bit like if Harry Potter got together with Twilight and threw in a lot of humor.
Oh, I'm in for that. I love Harry Potter and Twilight too.
And the characters for that are very interesting because again, it's young adult. So, that's a whole other ball game together. But I have the main male characters actually heavily inspired by a lot of the introverts in my life and people who have autism and people who are just a little bit more socially awkward. So it was definitely a fun story to write, and I am super excited about that. So those are like the two big ones that are coming up very soon. But over the summer, I have quite a few. I have Hecate, which is a part of a shared world series called the Speed Dating with the Denizens of the Underworld. And it focuses on all these individual gods and goddesses in kind of a more contemporary setting. So I have 3 books in that series that are coming out. I have Hecate, which is coming out June 28th. And I have Hades and Orion that are also coming out in that set. I don't have release dates for them yet, but Hades is in the process of getting edited and getting all that stuff, the cover and all that. So those are the immediate ones coming out.
Wow. I used to think that I wrote pretty fast and furious, and I don't even hold a match to you. Jiminy Christmas. That's amazing. I honest
to God don't know how I do it. There are some days I'm just like, and it's a weird phenomena, I think, too, just writing in general, because writing is very lonely, right? Like because you're sitting there and it's just you and it's, your computer, your notebook or whatever. And a lot of times, like, I'm so in the zone when I'm writing. And then once it's done, and I call it package, once I package it up and I send it to the editor, and then I send it to the proofreader, and then I send it wherever it goes, I oftentimes don't look at it until it's either published or when I'm making up advanced reader copies. So it's weird. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll read it and I'll be like, I don't remember writing this, but I wrote this. It sounds really good.
That's a great feeling though, huh?
It is, like, and I have my books lined up over on my my end table over there, and every now and then I will crack one open and just like look at it and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I remember writing this, and then other times I'll crack it open and be like, don't remember writing that.
That's super cool. We're I'm gonna pop your links here in the chat so people can go and check out all these fabulous books because I'm super
Cool.
intrigued. The Forevermore series and the Ava Crowley.
Ava Crowley, Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Yep, she is basically if Buffy Summers and Dean Winchester had a love child, it's Ava. That's how I wrote her. So
hey Ava, we're gonna become friends.
Oh, I love her. Her and Cassius are like, I don't want to say like, it's like books are like children, right? You can't pick a favorite.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I love writing Ava and Cassius.
Yeah. You have that one character that it's like your spirit child, you know? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, where can people reach you at on the pod? Because when we take this over the podcast, they won't be able to see all the comments.
So you can check out my Goodreads, I believe, is it says goodreads.com/author Ariel Dawn. On Amazon, I am amazon.com/author/Ariel Dawn. Let's see. You can check out my Instagram, Wrong Turn Romance, the project that spurred me into becoming an author, which is Instagram #Wrong Turn Romance. If you would like to check out the first book in the Forevermore series in the cards, you can check it out at http://books2read.com/forevermore1. And the other Forevermore series, there are currently 5 books available, so they are all Forevermore with their number. If you are, intrigued after you read in the cards and want to check out the next 4, as well as you can check out the Ava Crowley Vampire Slayer series. The first book in that is Blood and Bones, which is currently available at books2read.com/slayer with a capital S 1. And if you want to check out Hecate, which is coming out on June 28th, that is books2read.com/underworld6 with a lowercase u.
Cool. And if you have any advice for authors, if they're like you, maybe they have that dream, but they don't think that it's attainable.
I would say, it's hard to kind of like say that, you should do this or you should do that, right? But at the same time, it's ask yourself instead of, why, say why not? Like at the end of the day, I thought, well, what if, because initially what kept me from writing in the beginning was, well, what if I'm not good enough? What if nobody likes my books? What if I write this and it doesn't do well? And at some point I just had to stop and say, well, what if I just do it to do it? Like, like, why not? So, it kind of, I don't want to say write for you, because obviously if you want to write for an audience, like, you want to write for an audience. But for me, when I wrote Fated, I wrote it for myself. I wrote it because I wanted to try to finish a project. And in finishing that project, it gave me the confidence to start the next one. So instead of asking yourself why, say, why not?
I love that. Instead of saying why, say why not. That's great. Ariel, I've had a great time talking to you and learning about your book series, your journey, and I really need to kick my own ass into gear, I guess. Like, wow, you're a whole beast over there. Thanks. I can't wait. Yeah, no, I can't wait to see the wonderful things that you're going to bring into the world and the things you've already brought into the world. I've got some notes here, some books I need to download now. Like I don't have enough, right?
Oh, I know the feeling. I have a TBR bookshelf and boxes that are stashed under the bed.
Oh, I don't have boxes yet, but I'm gonna make sure that I get these on my Kindle so that I can make sure that I have them, and then just check out because I need a good vampire book, because I've been stuck in romance for a while. Now I'm like, I need more than just romance. I need more than just a regular romance. So guys, don't forget to come back each week and watch us either live or on the podcast right here on Facebook. You can ask Alexa or Siri to play our latest episode. Head to our website, catch the latest issue of the magazine, because the new one's coming out on April the 4th. We want to continue making authors' dreams come true by providing them a platform to shine. And we will see you guys next time. And if you appreciate conversations like we do and you want to become a better speaker, visit our friends Brendan and Bomsey at mastertalk.ca, where they teach you how to use the power of your voice. Don't forget, stay awake with a nice cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, the best cup of coffee on this side of heaven. That's thirddaycoffeeseguin.com. Until next time, my friends, I'm CJ. That's Ariel Dawn. Go read her wonderful books. And right on, everybody. Bye, Ariel. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
The Author's Forge is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support. Tune in, share, and subscribe.